Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, the question we're going to be answering is sex before marriage a sin? So I think the easiest way to get to the answer to this question is to actually ask another question, and that is, what purpose, what spiritual purpose does the act of a man and a woman having sex actually serve? Like, why did God bring that in the first place? And if we read Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, I think we'll actually begin to get a sense of what purpose it serves. And that verse reads, "Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh." So in the days of Adam, right, Adam and Eve, they're the first couple, there was no pastor who was going to bless them that we could say was what bonded them together. There was no marriage certificate at that time either. The only thing that was substantial that bonded them together was the sexual intercourse, because there's something biological that happens, especially if, let's say, we're women and this is the first time we're engaging in that. We are no more virgins afterwards. So it's kind of a break. There's something that goes on that's unique that first time we do it. So it shows that sex bonds, right? It's what consummates a relationship or marriage, right? It's what makes it kind of official, spiritually official. Not really the ceremony or the other stuff that we put on top of it. And it was for this reason that in Matthew chapter 19, verses 4 to 6, after Jesus repeated what was cited in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, he said, "What God hath joined together, let not man put asunder." Because it's a spiritual thing when a man and a woman come together in that way. So you can't be using, divorce courts or other physical structures we set up to begin to split them apart. So if we're having sex before we've gotten married to this person, then we're actually entering a contract without knowing. And then here's the problem. If we are not conscious of it and we just think that we're just doing whatever we want with this other person, then let's say, we get tired of it, we split, and then we go maybe marry someone else. Well, now there's adultery into this. We're now guilty before God because we've entered into a spiritual contract without that knowledge or intuition. So the essence here is that when we have sex, it actually binds us to whoever we've done it with. And thus, there are powerful implications there. We are now bound to keep that contract, which is why things like divorce and other things are frowned upon, because they are not respecting that contract. They're not respecting the laws that God set regarding that institution. And let me give an analogy that we read in the Bible that's very similar to this, that'll kind of help us to solidify our understanding here. If you remember the covenant that God made with Abraham and all his descendants, you'll recall that the seal or signature or token of that covenant was something called circumcision, which only the men did, where their foreskin of their private would be cut off as a way of showing that they belonged to God. The Gentiles didn't have that culture, so it was only the Israelites who had that culture. You read that in Genesis chapter 17, really the whole chapter, but verses 10 to 14 kind of gives a summary of it all. But the issue was, many of the Israelites who ended up partaking in that, right? They were circumcised when they were 8 days old and so on. By the time they became adults, they wouldn't actually keep the covenant. They'd be breaking the 10 Commandments. They'd be serving idols, sometimes doing horrendous stuff like wizardry, witchcraft, sacrificing their children into the fire, all kinds of stupid idols and stuff that were against the covenant. So even though they partook of the circumcision, they didn't keep the contract that the circumcision was meant to seal. Do you get what I'm saying? So now, bringing that back to marriage, if we're engaging in this sexual relation without actually regarding the contract that we're now putting ourselves in, then it's the same idea. Will look like it's like breaking a vow. You made a vow to God, you made a promise, and then you break it. Sure, you can ask for forgiveness and whatnot, but the point is, you look foolish now. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 4 to 5. We become fools before God, right? That's why King Solomon said, "Better is it that thou shouldest not vow than that thou shouldest vow and not pay." So there are the implications to engaging in sexual relations with the opposite sex that we kind of have to be conscious of. Otherwise, we'll now become fornicators and adulterers. And oh, no, we don't want to be that. God did bad stuff to those Israelites in the wilderness who were engaging in fornication and adultery. Numbers chapter 25, God killed thousands of them because they engaged in that. We don't want to suffer similar consequences. So I think the lesson here is that the act of engaging in sexual relations with the opposite sex is actually entering a contract with them. And there's a remote verse in the Bible, 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 3. I'm not too sure if we're familiar with it, but I think it was written from this kind of background knowledge because, Absalom, that silly guy, in 2 Samuel chapter 16, verses 22 to 23, he slept with all of David's concubines for sinister motives. And then he died and his father, David, came back. And the Bible tells us that David continued to feed his concubines and take care of them, but he never slept with them. Because, of course, Absalom had already went into them. And it said that they were now living in widowhood. Now remember, David, who was the one who had them as his concubines, didn't die. He was still alive at the time. So it was referring to Absalom, who had died. So therefore, Absalom was their husband. But Absalom never married those people. So it was the fact that he slept with them. Spiritually, they were already married. Absalom and his now 10 wives. So the fact of the matter is, sex is what seals the marriage spiritually. Not the ceremonies or any of the stuff. It's that. So that was why, by the time Absalom died, David's 10 concubines were now widows all of a sudden because their husband, Absalom, had died. So anyway, I think that's where we're going to stop on answering this question. Is sex before marriage a sin? If you enjoyed this video, although I don't really know if this is the kind of video we will be enjoying, but nonetheless, if you liked it, you can click the like button. If you want to join this community of Bible enthusiasts that is ever growing, you can click the subscribe button. And if you want to know when we come back with another video, which might not be about this topic, then there's the notification bell so that you can be aware when it comes out. Anyway, have a good day, and I'll see you in the next video.